Greetings, MBAP 518 students. This is Dr. Jaros with a video explanation for how I graded exam number 1. And let's take a look at the questions. Number 1, if a company is thinking about expanding to a foreign country and does not take into account the different ways that countries can be distant from each other, what mistakes might it make? What kind of analytical tool can help it make the right decision? Give an example of making a good decision from the article we read on this. Well, according to the article that we read, the Distance Still Matters article, there are 4 different types of distance as described by the CAGE framework, C-A-G-E. And these forms of distance are geographic, cultural, administrative, and economic. If a company ignores or does not take into account these kinds of distance, it could suffer losses, right? Geographic distance, if a country is very far away, that could incur very high shipping costs if we're sending supplies to another country or bringing in imports. Cultural distance, if we ignore cultural distance, then we might create advertisements to sell a product in a culturally distant country that are inappropriate, that do not meet their cultural standards, and that could get us into a trouble. Administrative distance. This means that there is a significant difference between our country and the other country in terms of rules and regulations and laws. Again, failure to take this into account could mean that we try to implement business practices in that country that do not comport with their regulations and laws, which could get us into trouble. And lastly, economic distance means one country being significantly wealthy or poorer than the other. Once again, if we ignore this kind of distance, we might develop products that are not priced properly for the market given the wealth of the consumers. So that's what I was looking for in terms of the first part of the question, an example of how a company could suffer or suffer losses if it ignored each type of distance. About the second part of the question, analytical tools. The CAGE framework describes the different kinds of distance and why they matter, but the proper analytical tool to use is country portfolio analysis, CPA, adjusted for distance. And that analysis shows, there's an example in the book of the fast food industry, where if we use CPA unadjusted for distance, it might appear that countries like Japan and China are better prospects for a U.S. fast food company, when in fact, when we use CPA adjusted for distance, we see that closer countries such as Canada and Mexico are actually the best ones to expand into. So I was looking for a discussion of country portfolio analysis adjusted for a distance as part of the second part of that question. All right, let's look at question number 2. Should companies consider the benefits of investing in a cluster if they are in a high-tech and or low-tech industries? If they are in high-tech and or low-tech industries, explain. When considering where to locate them, what factors should be most important to a company for product assembly and strategy development? Explain. Well, the first part of the question, first of all, as described in the article, there are no low-tech industries. Okay, so if you discussed low-tech industries, I deducted a couple points for that because the article is very clear. There's no such thing as a low-tech industry these days, and that's correct. There are only low-tech companies. Okay. All industries require advanced technology in order to be profitable in. But a lot of times companies fail to realize this and let their technology lag behind, and they become low-tech companies. And low-tech companies are unsuccessful, right? Because they're not keeping up technologically. One solution to that problem, therefore, is to join a cluster. Okay? All companies, whether currently high-tech or low-tech, should consider investing in clusters because clusters provide companies with access to things like world-class technology to enhance productivity and innovation. So they're critical to, they can be critical to firm success. Okay, that's a general point. That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question, what about companies, what about product assembly and strategy development? There's different answers. For product assembly, clusters are often not the most appropriate place to invest in. Product assembly, the most important factors are price and cost. So investing in low-cost locations are often best. Meaning, if we're a company, let's say we're a company based in the USA and there's a cluster in California that relates to our industry, we probably wouldn't want to put product assembly anywhere near that cluster because costs are very high in California. We would want to locate product assembly maybe in Mexico or China where costs are far lower because that's most critical. But when it comes to strategy development is what the authors call a quote-unquote home base activity that is that fits very, very well in a cluster environment. Strategy development is more conceptual, it's more intellectual, it's more technical, and those are the kinds of factors that can be found operating in a cluster environment. All right, let's look at question number 3. What kind of strategy and structure has United Cereal historically employed in Europe? Has this helped or hurt its competitiveness there? Explain. Well, historically, United Cereal has used what we've learned in our readings is called a multi-domestic strategy. The multi-domestic strategy is a strategy whereby each foreign subsidiary, operates more or less as an independent business. The manager of the foreign subsidiary doesn't have a lot of control from headquarters. Headquarters doesn't dictate to them what to do. They kind of operate their subsidiary as almost like a separate business. And that's what United Cereal did. It set up a lot of subsidiaries in Europe and allowed them to operate pretty much independently. All right. What kind of impact or has this helped or hurt its competitiveness there? Well, initially it helped quite a bit because the strategy allowed each subsidiary manager in Europe to be entrepreneurial, right? To gain a good understanding of market conditions and cultural and regulatory conditions in each of the countries that they were responsible for, and to customize and tailor product offerings to fit the tastes and demands of consumers in their area, right? And that resulted in a decent amount of market penetration and sales in European markets. However, with increasing competition from other cereal companies, United Cereal is under cost pressure. Multi-domestic strategy is a costly strategy because you are customizing things for different markets and you're duplicating your effort in terms of R&D and marketing. So in order to try to decrease costs, United Cereal is trying to evolve towards a transnational strategy. But one of the big problems with their effort to evolve is that the multi-domestic approach has created a lot of pushback and resistance, meaning the subsidiary managers are not used to being told by headquarters to coordinate with each other and to develop pan-European brands. So there's been a lot of pushback. Like when headquarters tried to introduce the juice, a juice for the European market, subsidiary managers in many countries pushed back and said, no, that juice won't work here. We're not implementing that. So there's been a lot of pushback. The biggest problem that the multi-domestic strategy is presenting to United Cereal right now is that there is a battle between headquarters and the subsidiary managers over control over the European market. Finally, let's look at question number 4. Is product lifecycle theory a useful approach to understanding the motivations companies have to expand abroad these days? Or no? Give a detailed explanation. Well, the answer is both yes and no. Okay. According to product life cycle theory, there are three primary motivations that drive companies to expand abroad: accessing new markets, securing critical supplies and raw materials, and also accessing low-cost production. Right? These three factors still matter quite a bit. Okay, the theory is still relevant. Companies still do expand in order to access new markets, to access low-cost production, and to secure critical supplies. Those haven't gone away. All right, those haven't gone away. But on the other hand, there are more these days. There are also more, quote unquote, advanced factors that motivate companies as well, such as trying to achieve economies of scale, trying to respond to shorter product life cycles, and developing global learning capabilities, expanding to other countries so that they can learn from those countries and gain more knowledge. And also global competitive positioning are important as well. So the answer to the question is yes, the product life cycle theory is still a useful approach to understanding the motivation that companies have to expand abroad these days, but it doesn't tell the complete story. There are these other factors that are now in play as well. All right, I hope this video explanation was helpful to you in terms of understanding how your exam was graded.